Okay. Keeping everything steady is, of course, fun. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Vermont Scale Customs. So, if you know anything about me and my how-to videos these days, I usually pretty much reserve it for when I get good and inspired to share something with you that I feel is kind of important and relevant. And it kind of pertains directly to Super 8 axles from Little Guy Racing and these ramp crab replacement universal shafts. I found after blowing out one of these within a couple of days of getting them that somebody had suggested online that these were available. So I ordered 2 sets, had and put them in, and upon the third turn, literal third rotation of the axle, let's see if I can't very gently sort of get you in a little bit more. So the first time the pin popped out, I took everything back apart, reset the pin, put everything in again, and then it happened within just a couple more turns. I think I drove it around on the floor for just a few seconds, and put it back up on the lift because it stopped rotating. And of course, upon taking it apart, I realized that the universal itself is just completely disintegrated after, the pin itself had once again come out. So that kind of brings me to basically just making the recommendation to not buy these for your Super 8s. It could potentially damage things and cause, more issues. So what I have done, now that I have your guys' attention here, this is kind of where the fix for the original CV has come into play. If you have as much stuff as I have, I guess it's kind of hard to say, and I'm not bragging, trying to say that I've got like every RC part that there is, but particularly, a lot of people don't have Das Hex crawlers. It just so happens that I have a set of Das Hex axles that came on one of the Z2 MOA, and that also came with spare pins. And it just so happens those pins are 5.98 millimeters in length, and these are 0.95 millimeters in diameter, which is the exact same size, diameter, exact same diameter as what's required for the original factory CV joints. So what I discovered is that if you take this from its current length at, 5.98, they may as well just call it 6, but I'm there like 5.99, 5.97, somewhere in there. It depends on how kicked off of an angle it is. I'm even seeing 5.94 right now. Anyway, if you take that down to what I saw was about 5.65, 5.68, I think was the first number that I saw that I was able to get that pushed back in there. You reassemble the CV with a filed pin. You then should be able to take a pair of needle nose pliers and very carefully begin to reseat that CV all the way around, nesting that fresh new longer pin inside of there. Now I filed both sides of that pin as well to kind of create burrs on both sides of it. And at 5.68, it's a little bit longer than the outer diameter of the steel shaft, but it still gives it enough room for the brass cup to fit over the top. Now it's a good pressure fit. Just be very careful with how you're putting that back on. And as I turn this, you can see how it hopefully see how that kind of bubbles that out a little bit. I'm not sure if you can catch that in this kind of light or not. Maybe if I hold it still, you might be able to see it better. But at any rate, that doesn't interfere with the rotation inside of the hub or anything. I was going to put this back together and show you how all of that works. But I was worried that I was going to have to order a CV kit. They may be out of the kits. I wasn't 100% sure, but it just so happens that I have a box of hexes and pins and random other stuff, a ramp crab, another piece of garbage that I probably don't want to use by them. Anyway, let's put this back together. And so yeah, it just so happened that I had the necessary pin to make this work. Got very lucky. And I have another one, so with any luck at all, I should hopefully be able to reassemble that one or redo that one, and utilize my newer pin setup to keep that from popping out. So anyway, let me get this back together really quick. And we'll move forward with taking a look at that. I know that a lot of you guys have probably run into this situation with these Super 8s, and if you're not in a position of having this kind of material to be able to do this fix, I don't really know which route I could send you to being able to try and locate the proper size pins for this, to be able to do what I'm showing you guys here. It's a little tough to sort of say, well, just go buy a Dasex Z2 and you'll be all set. That's a pretty good size investment to make just to get yourself, your hands on a set of pins. If you have 0.95 millimeter rod stock, I haven't looked at a paper clip. There's a good chance that even a paper clip might be just about the same size. And if you trim that paper clip just long enough to be able to push the brass cup out a little more to where it's, pressure fit and held on there and it's not going to come off, you might just have yourself a fix on your hand. That's if in fact, of course, you lost the pin and you can't locate the pin. Yes, I know I have not put the bottom screw on there. I'm just kind of doing all of this at once. Let's see if there's a chance that I would have any luck in being able to demonstrate how to file this one down over here and just replace it before it breaks. I wouldn't mind just, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of mentality on this. However, I do feel, since I'm here, I'm dug in on this project so far, why not just take a peek and see what I can do. I do put a nut on the underside of the drag link and the tie rod connections there, just to have one more thing that needs to come undone before something gives way. So I don't know if any of you guys do that, but if you have any of those kits from Injora that come with like 100 of those, a bag of like 100 of those nuts, I highly recommend it. Okay, let's see if we can pop this. Oh, heck yeah. Okay, so let's take a peek at what the length is on this one as it sits. I was kind of curious what that is, anyway, from the factory. Put all the stuff over here, get out of my face, ramp grab. Alright. I'm seeing 5.23 millimeters is the overall length, and again, that's 0.95 rod stock. If you can find 0.95 rod stock, you are golden. 0.95 millimeter. 1 millimeter will not fit. 0.95 it has to be. Even the old pins from SCX24 are much too large at 1.46 diameter, 1.44. So, this one pin that I do have here, the spare pin, I think, like I said, clocks in at about 6 millimeters. And I need to take that down to about 5.65. So I need to take about 0.3 of a millimeter off of this in order to be able to get that to the proper length to be able to pressure fit the cup back on. Don't really need to run a vise or anything like that for this process. But what I do recommend, if you don't have them already, is a small set of files that you can use. And if you start seeing shavings, or when you start seeing shavings, flip it over. You don't want to take too much, obviously. Probably want to find a better way to grab this too. Tweezers come in handy for that. But flip it over the other side. Give it a couple of, knock that factory cut off of there. And then go ahead and give it a measure to see where you're at and how much you've taken away. You don't want to take too much right off the bat. You will be bummed that you did. You want this whole thing to, like I say, you want it to be pressure fit on there. So if I set this down so it's stabilized. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I checked. It is at right where I want it to be. 5.63. It goes fast. This file is great. It cuts fast. So 5.63. I wanted about 5.65. I'm two 1/100ths of a millimeter over. 2 100ths. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, put this thing back together. All right. If you have not worked on these CVs, they're a bit of a pain. You may want to take the back bearing off, just so you don't have to contend with it while you're messing with it here. Put your center pin in, and then use your tweezers or what have you to sort of spin that around so you can see where that's going to drop to. And then grab the cup side of this and go ahead and just remove the brass cup off of the outer shaft. And I would just work on this sitting on the bench, on the desk, or what have you, whatever surface you're on. Now, where's my pen? Is that it? That's not it. Here's my pen. Okay. Keeping everything steady is, of course, fun. Rebuilding CVs is not a great time. You really got to sort of be careful about not pushing the pin all the way through the other side. But you got to keep everything lined up so it'll make it through to the other side. And sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling, working it back and forth. But once you get it, you get it. Let's see if I can finally zoom in here. Maybe you guys probably want to see this a little bit higher magnification. Okay. You're not going to be able to really tell too much, but that CV, that pin is just slightly, and you can almost see it. That pin is just slightly longer than the outer diameter of the CV shaft, the outer section here. I realize this is a long video, but this is important stuff. So, what you want to do is seat that cup, get it as close to the pin as possible. See how it's not quite biting down on there, it catches the very top of that. Now, if you take your needle nose pliers and you very carefully make sure it's centered and you're not pushing down over all of it, you should be able to start to hear that click and work your way around. And that click, what's happening there is it's the edges of the cut metal biting into the mill marks on the inside of the brass cup. So it's essentially seating itself, kind of reaching in and grabbing and pressure biting against the inner wall of that CV cup. I know that sounds like a super stupid techie way to say it, but basically it's a hack way to get this thing to hopefully not pop off so you don't lose your pin again. Now let's see if I can spin that for you and show you how I'll get my hand out of the way. So it sort of sets it slightly out of round, right? You can almost see where it raises up just a little bit. But you have plenty of clearance inside of the C-hub that's not going to make any difference at all. So like I said, make sure that's seated all the way against the back of the shaft. And you can even go around, which I'm going to do a couple times right now because I just want to make sure that's really pushed down on there. I think that's the fix. Pretty sure that's going to work just fine. So let me find the other half of that bearing, which is right here. Yeah, let me zoom back out for you guys. All right. So if you have this material, if you can find the pins to be able to do this fix is highly recommended. It's going to keep your CVs intact without issue. This is honestly probably the first time I've done it, and I only did it because I was lucky enough to have the material. Now, these do not come from the factory with any kind of thread lock on them at all. I do recommend, especially these two pivot screws for the C hub, I do recommend just putting a drop on each of the ends of those, and just making sure that those sit down with something on there, because if not, these will back out over time, just because of the nature of friction and how there's no shim or bearing or excuse me, anything like that bushing inside of these. That's already been thread locked once, so it's probably fine for now. If you've stuck around this long in this 20-minute long video so far, where are we at? 1850 something. Thank you very much for hanging out. I've hoped you found some of this information useful, especially if you're a Super 8 axle runner on whatever vehicle you're running them on. Oh, once again, just a little dab right on the end. Doesn't take drenching the whole screw. It's not really going to be worth anything doing that. And then for the underside one, if you want, you just pull that right over the edge of your desk. That way you don't have to tilt your screwdriver in any particular way. Just come straight up at it. And let's pop a pin back in here. Grab our, these aren't +5s, these are just weights. I'm sure a lot of you guys do the O-ring trick. I'm not sure who I picked that up from, but some time ago, I remember just, somebody I think on the SEX24, groups at Facebook or whatever, just recommended doing that, and I got into doing it, and I do it on a couple of my comps. Anything that doesn't have a nylock on it. And as far as I can tell you, that's 100% fixed. The CVs are A-OK on this thing now. They're back together. They should last quite a while. I don't think I'll have any problems with these in any way. So there you go. Thanks much for watching. Any questions, comments, anything like that, please feel free to leave them down below. Yeah, thanks for stopping by the channel. Vermont Scale Customs. We'll see you on the next one when I get inspired to tell you about something that I feel is important. All right, take it easy out there.